Welcome, Canada, and of course, lawyers hired by whatever Muslim Brotherhood affiliate paid to watch this show to sue me for whatever it is in the future, the past, or the present. Welcome. Okay, so tonight we have Justin Trudeau and the Liberals are denying the Great Reset. Now, if you say that they're trying to push let's say, COVID as a means to reset the economy to find better economic and social systems, you are a conspiracy theorist, despite the fact that Justin Trudeau literally said that, and we have federal documents that literally call for this. I'll get into that. That'll be your first story. We have the Adamson's BBQ story. Islamic Relief has gone a little ISIS. Shocking. Shocking, shocking, shocking. Liberal MP Majid Jowhari, the asset of the Islamic Republic of Iran, has even more ties to terrorism than originally thought. We got fighting radicals, both Islamist radicals and white nationalists. I've been in fights with Muslim Brotherhood people and white nationalists, and we will go over how to, I guess, de-radicalize people or fight radicalism. Now, before I get into it, I'm just going to say, yes, I have seen this stuff today about Pennsylvania and Trump in the election, but I'm not going to be covering it here, and I'm sorry about that. The reason is engagement's being throttled on the Facebook page and other things because I shared articles, even when I had the caveat saying, nothing proven yet, here's Trump's claims, and here are the counterclaims to it. I was flagged for fake news, engagement's been throttled, and this page might get taken away from me. And yes, I've tried to make a name for myself trying to run through this and not being afraid and going through this, but I'm not at the point right now where I can just risk all my pages and social media presence being taken away. Because I guess my excuse and my reasoning is I'm already in the middle of a major fight, all right? Aaron O'Toole and Walid Suleiman are suing me for $2.5 million. I've already spent my entire life savings, or pretty much all of it, and we'll spend it all, fighting this in court. And not woe is me, and thank you to everyone who's helped me so much, Patreon, blah, 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 PayPal, but I chose that battle. The problem is they did things I didn't expect. They're literally suing my family as well. It makes no sense, but my parents' house is under threat from Walid Suleiman and all that. So I need this platform to sort of get my side of the story out there, and there's so many people at a very high level of government who would be looking that if I said, well, Donald Trump claims that 500,000 votes were miscounted, and the real thing was 497,652, I'll get hit by a fake news claim, and then they can just make me disappear from the internet. So because I sort of need this to fight my own battles, I'm not going to be keeping up on the Trump legal stuff until there's something absolutely concrete, just because if I do say anything about it, they'll take the page away. And yeah, it sucks, and I can point you in the directions of other people covering it, and I'm happy to do that. But if you look at the engagement on the Facebook page, for example, you see it's way, 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 way below where it usually is. And hopefully this lasts just a few weeks, and then I can go back to doing what I do. But just in the position I am right now, I'm just going to avoid that topic because it's going to get this page nuked. So please, if you like these videos, please, please, please like, subscribe, click the bell. If you're on Facebook, definitely like and share. Click the see first under notifications, or else you'll just never see this. Twitter, Parler, it will be on all of there. So thank you so much for supporting the show. Let's get into what we're going to be talking about today. So you can bring up picture number one, as we have here. Justin Trudeau now says that people complaining about the Great Reset, like Pierre Poilievre, are conspiracy theories. These are conspiracy theories and crazy nonsense conspiracy theories. All right, I'm just going to show you the Trudeau article because all the evidence to sort of counteract this, it's in last week's episode about the Great Reset, which is on this page. It's on all the pages, so you can find it quite easily, all right? Last week, I showed you a video where Justin Trudeau literally says, the good thing about COVID is it gives us an opportunity for a reset, right? And the reset will be used to find new and better economic and social systems. Now, he has also linked, and there are government documents that talk about the Great Reset, and the Great Reset is actually a program put out by, Davos, World Economic Forum, all these major global institutions are actually pushing something called the Great Reset. We went through it. It's about, what's his name? Klaus Schwab, the new king of the world. It's a Klaus Schwab. We must listen to the guy with the German accent. I am the bald, creepy guy, and I am the new king of the world. And I've gone over it. The Great Reset is so nonsensical. If you saw me on this show, if you saw me on Laura Lynn Thompson's show, we just went over how ridiculous and counterproductive the thing is. It's basically global socialism light. Like, they call it a new form of capitalism. It is capitalism. If you just take, all the capitalism out of it, then it's, because we call it like stakeholder capitalism. It's really, really funny. Klaus Schwab basically says like, oh, markets have changed forever because young people and Greta Thunberg. Literally wrote an article. He wrote an article saying, well, Greta Thunberg's really popular, therefore, economy has changed forever. By the way, best story of the week, I'm going to cover it now, is Justin Trudeau got pranked by a bunch of Russian pranksters who pretended to be Greta Thunberg. And he took a call with Greta You're the friggin' prime minister. You don't need to take a call with friggin', Swedish teenagers who don't know anything about anything, right? Oh, climate change. And it's like, oh, he thanked her for being in Canada during the last election, which, like, doesn't that imply some sort of foreign election interference? A little bit? No. So Justin Trudeau has done, exactly what Justin Trudeau does, right? Trudeau calls the Great Reset a conspiracy theory, and as Fernando says, despite it being mentioned in his own documents and statements. So I'm sure you've seen it. The Bank of Canada actually talks about a Great Reset. The World Economic Forum actually talks about a Great Reset. Justin Trudeau actually talks about implementing a Great Reset. But this is the gaslighting of the media when it comes to the Liberal Party. In America, it's the Democrats too, where the media tries to play this game where they will go, oh my God, Trump is so irregular. He's thrown away all social conventions. How could Donald Trump possibly do X, Y, or Z, right? There's a Daniel Dale for the Washington Post, has an article. Here are all the lies Donald Trump's ever told. And is Donald Trump the greatest ambassador of the truth that we've ever known? No. But pretending that he's the only politician that lies is ridiculous. And Justin Trudeau's lies are always more egregious, right? Here we have him saying something like, this is what we are going to do. We're going to try and reset our economy. Now, if Justin Trudeau had just said, mea culpa, I had misspoke, we're actually not talking about, if he had given some nonsense answer like, oh, we're not actually talking about a Great Reset, we just want to sort of partner with the international community for blah, 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 you can kind of, not excuse it, but you can, I guess, not feel gaslit, right? If you just acknowledge that he said what he said, like, yes, I said this, but it didn't really mean this, right? Then you can kind of say, okay, he's just a swarmy politician and he's backpedaling, right? This is a flip-flop. It's common in politics. There's political pressure being put on him and he flip-flopped. Happens to the best of us, okay? I'm not saying it's good, but you can kind of say whatever. But Justin Trudeau takes it to another level, and the media's totally complicit in this, where he doesn't flip-flop. He just outright denies that he said exactly what he said. And despite the fact that there are video evidence of Justin Trudeau saying things, and actual government documents saying things, and real conservative politicians putting pressure on him, the media will not cover this as a lie. Right? The media won't just say, Justin Trudeau lying now, he's obviously lying, right? Build up, because they'll go after all of Stephen Harper's or Aaron O'Toole's or Andrew Scheer's inconsistencies, and good for them. That's their job, right? The vaunted fourth estate, the upholders of truth. But you lose credibility, and I talk about this a lot. We need credibility in our institutions. And one of the ways to erode credibility in institutions is to go along and help out the political class when they want to lie. So instead of being the people who hold politicians to account, they're essentially their propaganda arm. So do I need to go over the Great Reset in depth? No, there's a whole hour on this channel on what the Great Reset is, why it's bad, and why we shouldn't do it. Here it's just fascinating because I want to read to you a prophecy from the book of Daniel's Twitter. Daniel's Twitter book, November, passage 15th. And Daniel saith, Trudeau just outright said that COVID is a great opportunity to reset our economy and find a better economic system to reach the UN 2030 agenda. Can't wait for the fact checkers to claim this is a conspiracy theory, right? And on cue, we have Justin Trudeau, no, maybe not the fact checkers, claiming this is a conspiracy theory. He just said it. And then if you listen to what Justin Trudeau says and repeat it back to him, you're now a conspiracy theorist. Right? This immense level of gaslighting is what's driving people crazy. People can take being lied to, and people can take being lied to by politicians, I think, quite well. It's kind of baked into the political DNA of our society. Politicians have a reputation for lying. If there was a joke, it's like a politician, a lawyer, and a criminal walk into a bar. The thing is, you expect in this hacky joke, the criminal's actually the honest one, right? This is, this is where our society is on this level. So I think people can definitely handle being lied to by the political class. What they cannot handle is the gaslighting. What they cannot handle, and this will not be the only example of this on the show tonight, is them lying to you and then just gaslighting you that they didn't. Like, we can understand a flip-flop. Oh, that's not really what I meant, and I meant to say this, but we're actually saying this, and it's like, okay, that's a flip-flop. We caught him, and he's doing a political thing. But to take it to the next level where it's just like outright gaslighting, no, we didn't say this. And then to compound that, you have the media jumping into the fray to gaslight the public, right? Why would we ever take anything the media says seriously? And this is sort of the problem of COVID-19 in a big thing. I've been talking for years. The erosion of trust in the institutions. The institutions in our country needed our trust. They needed us to say for a month, hey, you trust us, the media, the government. Hey, everyone needs to go inside. We need 14 days to flatten the curve, blah, 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 blah. We needed trust in the institutions to best combat this virus. However, trust in the institutions was vastly eroded by the time that COVID came around, and then they obviously started with lying, and then they gaslit, and then they denied, and then they pushed more communist propaganda, and then they gaslit, and they lied. And this is what drives people crazy. It drives people crazy. The gaslighting from the media is driving people insane, which is why you should watch this show. Please like and subscribe, blah, 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 blah. It really helps out, blah, 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 blah. You know the things, you know. Get a tattoo of my face onto your face. Here we go. All right, story number 2. The hero of the day, the week of COVID-19, is the Adamson BBQ people. Adam Skelly? What, Skelly? Skelly. Butchered his name, but I didn't know. So he is now facing 9 different charges, I believe, 4 from yesterday, 5 from today, like having an illegal gathering, being, operating a business without a license. They took his license away yesterday, and a bunch of stuff, like illegal gathering, protest, and they're talking about maybe they'll find the protesters too. People are pushing for the maximum here. And again, who are the people pushing the hardest for the Adamson BBQ guy to be put to the guillotine? It's the mainstream media. Like, if you go into the Adamson's BBQ hashtag, which let's just see, is it still trending? It's what's happening. All of this, it's a flurry of blue check marks, just screaming. Adrian Gerbel, blue check mark. Reporter at City News and City TV. He's cheering on. He's going off. He is going off. He spent all day. Stephanie Smith, blue check mark. Managing editor, breaking news, live anchor, Toronto CP24. She's judging the fray. Jennifer Pellegrino, is this the Toronto Star one? Yep, City Hall reporter for Toronto Star. City Hall reporter. City Hall. This isn't City Hall. Screw City Hall and what John Tory's up to. No, let's just go after this barbecue guy. Update can confirm Adamson BBQ and director, unclear if this is Skelly himself, have been charged with bylaw infractions. Jumping on. CTV News going off of it. People quoting Doug Ford. Like, do you see the level of malice that the mainstream media has for the regular guy? Now, here's the argument for Adamson BBQ, okay? You want everyone to lock down and say, don't worry, you can file for a government loan and we'll pay like 65% of your rent. Don't worry, we'll just throw money into socialist whatever. And, we see, I don't even have time to go into the fact that a lot of the money Ford's been giving have been funneled to his lobbyist friends. He's been paying like, $4 million or 3 point whatever million to like create COVID timelines and silly nonsense stuff. It's just being used to funnel money back to their cronies. Like, the government loans from the federal government, they were supposed to go to independent businesses, but like $200 million in loans went to like the public sector and just funneled money to themselves, right? We see this. But the real question is like, he should just be open for curbside pickup. Guys, winter is coming, okay? And how is this guy's like, and even I've had this conversation with my family members who are way more like, we should lock down for the next 5, maybe 7 millennia. We probably shouldn't open anything until the year 9000, right? I have family like that, which is like, no one should ever be outside again. We're all gonna die. That is a position of privilege. Now, honestly though, lots of people and lots of businesses aren't gonna be able to survive the winter. It's one thing in summer to say, everyone line up outside. You can do that in the summer, right? But for a place like Adamson BBQ, which is pretty popular, who's going to want to wait in a line of over 5 people in the middle of December, in the middle of January. If it's minus 26 degrees in February, who's going to go to these places, right? These businesses are going to die. And the force said, no, we let you be open for curbside pickup. We let you be open for takeout. We let you be open for all these different things. And like, yes, there are some ways to circumvent it, but a good majority of people aren't going to want to stand outside in the freezing cold for an hour to go support local businesses. It's just not how we're wired, and it's hard to do. Like, no one wants to be out in the cold. So in order to save their business, they want to open up inside. Now, I get to do something called moral and intellectual consistency because I've been on this for the whole time, all right? And I have always said, the protests inside Walmart or Costco against masks, like, why is Walmart making me wear a mask? It's unfair that I have to wear a mask inside the supermarket. Grr. Now, I'm with you on the efficacy of masks and you know, are they perfect, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's not the issue, right? The issue is, do private businesses have the right to run their business the way they want to? So the right of a private business to say, hey, here's a place where we want you to wear a mask right now, that is their right. That is the exact same right that Adam Skelly has to say, this is how I want to run my business in the middle of a pandemic. I don't want to force people to do this. I'm going to allow people inside. I'm going to try and be reasonable with all restrictions, but this is my property, right? We will put the warnings and masks signs up. We'll put the government health warnings up, but people have the freedom to choose how they want to choose where they want to go and where they don't want to go, right? So if you want to go to Adamson BBQ because you're craving barbecue and it's freezing cold outside and you don't want to, you don't want to go, like, again, barbecue, like restaurant food is food. And the reason why people go to restaurants is because it's usually better than they can make themselves. One of the good things about restaurant food is you usually get to eat it hot, right? Like if you have to wait outside, take it, drive it back home, right? Then it's like 20 minutes old by the time you have it. Some people want to have fresh food, right? So the right of Adamson BBQ to say, hey, no, this is our private property and this is how we're conducting yourselves. You're all Canadian citizens. Make the choices you want to make. If you're a religious devotee to the Church of Dr. Teresa Tam and Tamism, go for it. If you're a Tamist and you never want to leave the house again, you never want to see another human being, you're okay with, like, never having another boyfriend or girlfriend or friend in general, great. That is your religious belief. Go inside and worship Dr. Teresa Tam. Have fun. But some people want to be outside. Some people want to be with other human beings. Some people want to go to a restaurant, sit down, and eat there and support a business like this, right? And some people want to push back against the system that has lied to us consistently since January. Some people don't have faith in the system, and that's fine. And if the Adamson BBQ guy says, hey, we don't want people crossing tables and hugging, and this is how you conduct yourself inside my private property, then that's his right. So you can't have it both ways, everyone. And a lot more is from the religious Thamists. The religious Thamists will finally get the argument of businesses, well, actually, not really. It's more like the government says you can't do this, so this is why you got to, like, wear the mask inside. But if you want to say, hey, people have to wear masks when they're shopping because I want that and Loblaws wants that, you're saying Loblaws has the right to tell people to wear masks, which is true. Adamson's BBQ has the right to tell people to wear masks inside. However, Adamson's BBQ also has the right to say, you're allowed to sit down inside if we let you. They're also allowed to say, we don't want you to sit down inside, you have to get your food and leave our establishment. They have the right to conduct their business the way they want it, and you have the right to make decisions for yourself. And we just got news, from CTV, that like most of the deaths in Canada are from nursing homes. It's like of the 11,000 deaths, like 10,700 and something have come from inside nursing homes. 6,500 of that is like inside Quebec nursing homes, 2,500 of that is inside Ontario nursing homes. So it's not like screw the old people, but like, again, for someone like me, like the risk of contracting COVID-19, like there is if I drive to Adamson's BBQ, get my barbecue and drive back, right, and take out, versus I drive to my Adamson's BBQ, I get my food, sit there, eat it, and then drive back. The two most dangerous things for me, by far, statistically dangerous things to threaten my life are driving there and driving back. I am much greater risk of dying in a car accident on the way there or back than I am if I were to contract COVID inside there and then go. Now, could I get COVID and then give it to someone who then goes into a nursing home and then it causes outbreak? And yeah, it could happen. But this is This is like the life of a lot of nursing homes, okay? And there's a lot of moral panic of people just not understanding like sort of the stark realities in nursing homes. Like, this is the most vulnerable section of population. I'm not saying screw them, there's nothing to be done, but you know, again, I family work inside nursing homes, and they say like, and a lot of doctors are concerned because there are certain floors in nursing homes, usually like floor, 2, 3, 4, like the lower level floors. This is, there are floors where those are such heavy intensive care patients, right? A lot of them have they're geriatrics. When you're over 90, you have way more than like 10 diseases, right? And a lot of them on these floors have like severe dementia too. So you have people who are like severely immunocompromised and dementia all congregated into one thing. Like, doctors say like, listen, it could be COVID, it could be a regular cold. Someone could just sneeze on the 3rd floor of this building, and then, 80% of these people will die. And there's really nothing you can do, right? It's if an infection or outbreak happens inside nursing homes or hospitals, and they hit the most vulnerable sector, a lot of those people might die because they're in their 90s, they have a lot of other complications, and it's hard to keep people in their 90s alive. I want to do it. I have a grandmother in a nursing home in her mid-90s. I hope she lives to be 137. But the reality is, on certain floors, you have patients with like severe dementia and extreme complications that it's just really, really, really hard to keep these people alive. And God bless the people who do it. But this is sort of what we need to talk about. So when we talk about Adamson's BBQ, this guy's great because he is taking the right line that he hopes that everyone else will sort of Spartacus with him, and I hope other businesses do too. Good on him for being the first. I will support this business. But they're talking about, you have politicians and media members literally advocating for the $100,000 worth of fines to this guy who he just doesn't want to throw away his life's work and his business to make the Thamists happy. Listen. You have the right to freedom of religion. I don't care if you're a Muslim, if you're Jewish, if you're Christian, or if you worship Dr. Theresa Tam. Worship however you want to worship. But you don't get to inflict your religious beliefs as a Thamist onto the rest of society, okay? Dr. Tam, if you criticize her, you're a racist. Ridiculous. All right. So let's bring up the next picture, next story. Here we have this is the next thing. Here is the tweet from Pierre Poilievre going after Justin Trudeau and liberals. So the liberals have completely turned their back on our allies in Israel, and not a lot of people understand the intricacies of what the liberals just did here, and there's a lot of great common rhetorical tactics that have been used. So here's Poilievre. Wow. Asked when her government voted against Israel at the UN, Freeland says, we are living in a world today where there's a worrying rise of authoritarian regimes, a worrying rise of anti-democratic populism. And he goes, is she saying Israel is an authoritarian, anti-democratic country? Now, this is a video exchange where Freeland, who I'm sure is a Thamist by religious belief, although her grandfather is a Nazi, so I'm not really sure how they would think about Thamism. Anyways, she basically straight up answered, why did you vote against Israel? Well, we've got to stand up to authoritarian and anti-democratic regimes. Okay, so that's clearly calling Israel authoritarian and anti-democratic. When Poilievre pointed this out, she fired back at him saying this was a lie. Again, the liberals have just learned that they can gaslight and lie and the media will jump in line. Now, I'm going to explain to you why this stuff is so worrying, because it's going to come to a country near you. The resolution, co-sponsored by North Korea against Israel, will be painted as Palestinian human rights. I have no problems with Palestinian human rights when they are the human rights that we generally think of. Religious liberty, freedom of speech and conscience, and freedom, if it's legitimate human rights, it should go to all people, Palestinians included, or what you would call Arab Palestinians. However, the motion of the UN, which is going to be based as Palestinian human rights, it confirms the right to a Palestinian state and Palestinian self-determination. It does not confirm the rights of Israelis to exist as well. It doesn't confirm that Israel has the right to self-determination. And this is one of the big problems. So we'll get into the others later. Can we just have an actual Palestinian human rights thing that actually believes in human rights? Honestly, why is it so hard to say both have the right to exist? So when we say this is BS, you're saying, oh, you're against Palestinian human rights? How dare you? This is the Palestinian human rights plan. You're like, no, I'm not against Palestinian human rights. I'm just saying When you say Israel doesn't have the right to exist, and then I'm pro-Palestinian, I say, whoa, I disagree. What, you hate Palestinians? I'm like, no, you hate Jews, right? So when you say something, listen, we should kill all the Jews, Palestinians should have human rights. It's like, Palestinians should have human rights, but we shouldn't kill all the Jews. Then the left and the internationalists and everyone conflates, takes out the we should kill all the Jews part and say, Daniel Bourbon doesn't believe in Palestinian human rights. How dare he? Right? So that's the biggest thing is everything at the UN that talks about the rights of people to self-determination always ignores the Jewish right to self-determination. So the liberals co-sign this, right? So it's, how's all this fluffy language, but it just, like, again, no one would have a problem with this. Well, there are other problems later. If they said both Israelis and Palestinians have the right to self-determination. Well, I wouldn't say, then all the Palestinians would have a problem with it. How dare you declare, right? Because Palestinians have learned. All they need to do is cry and scream and then murder, and then they get their way. So now the UN knows, okay, we can't say anything good about the Jews to appease the Palestinians. And the international Zionist lobby, God. The Zionist lobby is so incompetent that it can even be outwitted by Justin Trudeau. Useless, 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 useless. But the other things in that resolution, this is where it gets into the sort of interesting thing, and I want to cover sort of blasphemy. Because, again, I don't believe in blasphemy laws. I think blasphemy laws are stupid. I don't think we should have them. I think anyone pushing for them is anti-democratic, is anti-Western. But this UN resolution is blasphemous. Now, not that I think it should be illegal, but I'm just sort of proving the point. So when you have Islamists saying, well, no one should blaspheme against any religion. I would never blaspheme against you. Sorry, but the way the UN treats Israel is literally blasphemy in the eyes of the Jewish religion. Now, that doesn't mean shut down the UN for blasphemy. I'm not saying that. I'm just going to explain this point, okay? The insulting thing on a religious level from the UN is it completely erases the Jewish connection to the Temple Mount, calls it only by its Arabic name, and denies that there's a Jewish connection to what you know as the Western Wall and the Temple Mount. This is insane because the Jewish religion is literally centered around the Temple Mount. It is the holiest site in all of in Judaism, right? We're a much, much older religion. I have friends in the dative communities that I like to talk to about, and we talk about, like, Jewish religion has a lot of similarities, you know, with Christianity, of course, but it has a lot of similarities as well with what you would, like, indigenous religions, because the Jewish religion is actually a, like, sort of a geographically based religion, right? So the temple in the Old Testament is basically the heart of the religion. Like, there are certain holidays, right, that are like pilgrimage holidays where you're supposed to go to the temple. Like, a lot of the Old Testament, like, talks about how you go to the temple, sacrifices at the temple, when to go to the temple, you know, the Levi and the Kohen and how they relate to the temple. The Temple Mount, right, or where the temples of David and Solomon were, this is literally the heart of the Jewish religion. It's literally the center. It's literally where the religion is sort of based around. Now, when the Jews were exiled and the religion had to reform and change because, again, the temples were destroyed, but it's literally the center of the Jewish religion. So to say that there is no Jewish connection between that land and the Jewish people is blasphemy is blasphemous to the Jewish religion. Now, do you have the right to blaspheme? Of course you do. Do I care that people are blaspheming? Of course I don't. My point is, often the UN will push anti-blasphemy stuff, and the Islamists and the Palestinians will say, blasphemy, you can't draw pictures of the Prophet Muhammad, blasphemy, 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 blasphemy. But here you go. Sorry, you're blaspheming against the Jewish religion, which, again, shouldn't be a crime. Go for it. I do it all the time. Have a fun time. But I'm simply pointing out the hypocrisy of the UN, the IOC, or OIC, sorry, and all these it's organizations that say, oh, this is religious persecution, and they're undermining our religious values, and blah, 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 blasphemy. You never blaspheme against you. Well, you blaspheme against the Jews all the time. Like, okay. So, why do I bring this up? Because when the liberals side with North Korea in condemning Israel and calling Israel authoritarian and anti-democratic, this is why I take on these monikers, okay? I am an unapologetic Zionist. I'm an unapologetic nationalist. I say Zionist first because it's the more controversial label, all right? And I've talked about this. I will take on the most controversial label that applies to me to sort of break the ice here, okay? Zionism was just Israeli nationalism. Now, nationalism wasn't really a term, right? Nationalism, the concept of nationalism, really comes, we start talking about it a lot sort of after World War I, whereas the Zionist movement, starts in the early 1800s. So the term Zionism sort of predates the fundamental terms of nationalism. You know, if the Zionist movement had started now, it would just be Israeli nationalism. And it is Israeli nationalism, they just called it Zionism, right? So I believe that Canada has the right to exist as a country. I'm a nationalist, I'm a Canadian nationalist. I believe Guatemala has the right to exist as a country. I believe countries should have borders, individual laws, and sovereignty. Now, when I apply this to Israel, then the term changes from nationalist to Zionist. It's the same thing, right? But when the left and the Islamists and the international bureaucrats consistently malign and undermine Israel, and you think, well, okay, they're just undermining Zionism, and you get a lot of alt-righters being like, grrr, Zionist, 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 grrr. But they're like, I'm a nationalist. Like, you can't go grrr, Zionist, and then be like, why are people talking about nationalism? Well, this is what the Soviets and the Nazis and the Islamists actually did from the 1950s into the 1970s. Because they worked on undermining the term nationalism because they knew it would be related to Western democracy, and the same attacks being used to undermine Israel are the exact same attacks currently being used to undermine Canada, right? Settler colonialism, Canada is a racist, all the lies that they've pioneered to attack Israel and successfully push their academic system. Well, once you accept the logic of the lies used to undermine Israel, well then Canada's illegitimate, America's illegitimate, France is illegitimate. Every country becomes illegitimate unless it's literally a communist hellhole, or an Islamist hellhole, or a general fascist hellhole, right? So this is the problem. When Canadians don't stand up for Canadian values, when Omar Al-Ghabbar says voting against Israel is Canadian values, when Justin Trudeau sends hundreds of millions of dollars to UNRWA, even though we've shown it funds and supports terrorism, this is undermining Canada, right? So you can't give in to the values that undermine your country. You just can't. But we do, all the time. So that's my Zionist rant of the day. Like, subscribe, tell your mother, tell your father, send a telegram to all your friends about the show. Like, subscribe, hit the button, or just delete this channel. If you're Mark Zuckerberg, or whatever YouTube CEO, what's her face, just delete this entire channel. Just go for it. Just and then just replace all my videos with like pictures of Walid Suleiman. Just go for it. Just go for it. Have a grand old time. All right, moving on. So everyone knows I love Islamic Relief. They provide so much relief to all the Islamic stuff in the world, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with Islamic Relief, except the fact that they keep being involved in terrorism, anti-Semitism, and Muslim Brotherhood stuff. Oopsie doodles. So here is a clip of the founder of Islamic Relief Worldwide and the founder of Islamic Relief Canada, the current chair of the board of directors of Islamic Relief Canada, Hani al-Banna, calling Yazidis devil worshippers. Yazidis, remember, are the prime victims of the ISIS genocide. So let's just meet Hani al-Banna for a second. Let's cue up the video.
Yazidi, which were actually worshiping the devil or following the devil, as they call it.
What a charming individual. Now, this was the same logic used by the ISIS militants to murder, rape, and pillage the Yazidi villages. Now, the Yazidi people have experienced like 72 genocides in the last couple hundred years. Islamists, everyone murders them all the time. Nadia Murad spoke out against this. She won the Nobel Peace Prize in 2018. She was held captive as an ISIS sex slave for 3 months before she escaped. So when we talk about ISIS sex slaves, the victims of ISIS, primarily they are the Yazidis. Now, the government of Canada didn't really care too much about them. Michelle Rumpel makes some noise about them, but the Yazidis we have to bring over. It had to be done privately because the refugees of ISIS, we took in a lot of Sunni Muslims, which is what ISIS is, and not the people they were murdering because Justin Trudeau. Now, that is the founder of Islamic Relief Canada and Islamic Relief Worldwide, and the current chair of the board of directors of Islamic Relief Canada. Where's the consequences here, okay? If the director of any Jewish, any Christian group said that, immediately they'd be fired. Immediately they'd be gone. But Islamic Relief Canada continues to get tens of millions of dollars of support from the Canadian government. Now, compounding this is two of our allies, Israel and the United Arab Emirates, say that Islamic Relief Worldwide is a terrorist organization for sending funds to Hamas. Okay, Hamas is a terrorist organization as declared by Canada. So if they are right, Israel and UAE that is, that Islamic Relief Worldwide sends money to Hamas, and Islamic Relief Canada sends money to and receives money from Islamic Relief Worldwide, they are in convention of Canadian law for terrorism funding. Now, this is not my assertion, okay? A report was filed to the government, you can look up Operation Kill Switch, by Tom Quiggin. Now, Tom Quiggin is a court-certified expert in radical Islam in Canada. Now, what this means is, a court-certified expert, their opinion on the subject which they are a certified expert in counts as evidence in a court of law. So, Tom Quiggin filed a report listing out all the complaints of terrorism funding from Islamic Relief Worldwide, and then the funding they get from Islamic Relief Canada. And Islamic Relief Canada is suing him for $2.5 million, is suing Raheel Raza for $2.5 million, Sohail Raza, her husband. They just sue people's families, these guys. What delightful people. And more people, right? Like, they are suing a bunch of Muslims and Tom Quiggin. So we live in a country where a court-certified expert on a particular subject can voice their opinion. It's not even an opinion. Can just compile a report. He put no opinion into it. If you look at the report, there's no opinion. A court-certified expert on extremism can just file a report with no opinions on that particular topic, send it to the RCMP, and then get sued for $2.5 million because of it. Court-certified expert. That's how ridiculous the Canadian free speech laws are. He can be sued for $2.5 million. Now, it gets even crazier, because I made videos about this. I asked the question when I saw that Aaron O'Toole, after all this became public, Aaron O'Toole was asked by a reporter of the National Telegraph why he met with Islamic Relief Canada after they were declared a terrorist organization by the United Arab Emirates. And Aaron O'Toole said, yes, I'm aware of the UAE thing, but Islamic Relief Canada and Islamic Relief Worldwide are totally separate organizations, and I've been assured of this, and I know. So he has intimate knowledge of Islamic Relief Canada and Worldwide because he's been assured they're different. However, Hani al-Banna, the guy I showed you talking about Yazidis being devil worshippers, founded both organizations, and is the current chair of the board of directors of Islamic Relief Canada. Current chair of the board of directors. Currently on there on the website. Chair of the board of directors. Believes Yazidis are devil worshippers. Also al-Banna, from the same small town as Hassan al-Banna, founder of the Muslim Brotherhood. The other co-founder of Islamic Relief Worldwide, Isam al-Haddad, is currently in jail in Egypt for his role in the Muslim Brotherhood, and basically, really, it's for, yes, he had used Egyptian funds to sort of funnel money to the Muslim Brotherhood through Islamic Relief, but he's really in jail because he actually tried to work with the IRGC to set up a parallel security system. Basically, that's how the genocide in Sudan started, is when Omar Bashir, his Muslim Brotherhood government, started working with the Iranian IRGC to sort of compile lists of people that would need a little bit of, and then lots of people died. But that's a genocide we don't talk about anymore because, not so politically correct to do so in these days. All right. I brought up these issues. I said, hey, why is Aaron O'Toole? And by the way, I know Aaron O'Toole knows because he came up to the same reporter, and we don't proof this, but this is firsthand I heard this. 5 hours later, he came up to our reporter, 5 hours after he asked this question, came up to him and said, Tom Quiggin, right? This came from Tom Quiggin. Aaron O'Toole said this, which means he knows exactly he knows that Tom Quiggin is a court-certified expert on these subjects, and he knows what Tom Quiggin has said about them. He knows. Aaron O'Toole knows about these terrorism funding, right? But then, try to, go through that. And I brought up the question, hey, why is Aaron O'Toole meeting with Islamic Relief Canada after he admits to knowing their parent organization was declared a terrorist organization by the UAE? And why is he claiming that they're separate organizations when their own financial records say they send money back and forth between each other? And if he knows about Tom Quiggin, Tom Quiggin's report clearly says they send money back and forth from each other. Here's the evidence from their own stuff. And Aaron O'Toole is aware of this. So he is aware that they are sending money back and forth. And he should be aware by now because I know he knows who I am, because when I first asked him a question, he said, nice to finally meet you, Mr. Boardman. Right, so he knows what I'm saying about him. So he knows that Hani al-Banna, the Yazidis are devil worshipper guys, is the co-founder of both Islamic Relief Canada and Islamic Relief Worldwide. Yet he is still going to work with them. And Aaron O'Toole will now work with the Muslim Association of Canada, which had on their website up until 2019 that they follow the teachings of the Muslim Brotherhood. Aaron O'Toole is now openly meeting with people who openly declare to be Muslim Brotherhood. And I say, why is Aaron O'Toole doing this? And I talked about other things in Islamic Relief Canada, and me bring up the question of, Why is Aaron O'Toole at Islamic Relief Canada, and why can Islamic Relief Canada sue a court-certified expert on this particular subject when he filed a report to the RCMP? This is a chilling assault on free speech. What happened? Boom, I get hit with a lawsuit from Walid Suleiman, his campaign chair. It gets even crazier, because then he goes on to sue my family. Aaron O'Toole, if you're going to support him, oh, he's better than Trudeau. Maybe on the economy. But I'm sorry, the lawsuit against my family, basically, if that goes through, you're now setting the precedent to this country, done by Aaron O'Toole himself and his cronies, that if you say something, not only can you get sued, but the people who you associate with, your family, can get sued for what you say. Like, that's North Korea level nonsense, 3 generations of punishment. I guess for Aaron O'Toole, he only wants 2 generations of punishment here, but it's still insane. And this is what I'm dealing with now, is like, and this is just going through, and Aaron O'Toole's up there like, we believe in free speech as the Conservative Party, we believe it, we're gonna fight for freedom of expression. Lies, 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 lies. Aaron O'Toole is the worst politician in the history, not current, in the history of Western civilization when it comes to free speech, because he is enabling a lawsuit against my family for videos I made. Prove me wrong, Aaron. Prove me wrong. Call up Walid and say, hey, drop the lawsuit against Boardman's family. It's ridiculous. It has no ground. It has no merits. You want to do me a favor, Aaron? You know what? I'll stop bashing Aaron O'Toole on free speech if they just drop the lawsuit against my family. They can continue to sue me. Add another lawsuit against me. Who cares? Sue me for this, okay? Aaron O'Toole is a stinky head, and Aaron O'Toole is a loser. Sue me for that, okay? $2.5 million. File a lawsuit there, right? But just take the one away from my family and I'll stop complaining. So this is Islamic Relief. These are the people, right? They sue people. You try and raise questions about them. Then the government sues you. I'm being sued by the leader of the Conservative Party and his cronies for trying to expose a story about the Liberal government using your tax dollars to fund terrorism. That's Canada these days. That's Canada. It's ridiculous. So ridiculous. Oh my God. We have Islamic Relief just running around receiving taxpayer dollars to infinity. Like their entire board had to resign twice this year because it was found out they were supporting terrorists. They were all anti-Semites. And then the new guy got fired because they found posts that he was supporting the Muslim Brotherhood. And yet we are getting sued for saying Islamic Relief is linked to the Muslim Brotherhood. Another person on their friggin' board, Dr. Altantani Attia, openly says in an article in the National Post, he runs a mosque to Toronto. It says the National Post verbatim, here we follow the teachings of the Muslim Brotherhood. And I'm getting threatened to be sued for that too. It's not just Aaron O'Toole, it's not just O'Toole and Walid. Every time, I'm telling you, every time I report on Aaron O'Toole, or every time the National Telegraph runs a report on something connected to Aaron O'Toole, even when I don't write the article, someone threatens to sue me. I'm telling you, every time I talk about Aaron O'Toole, now I only have one active lawsuit. It's just Bible friggin' notices. But so many friggin' people, every time I say something about O'Toole and his connections, or if there's ever a point where like there's a court date coming up, like within a week of that court date, like another one of O'Toole and Walid's friends will like threaten to like sue me over like nothing. It's like this. It was literally one of them was like, this YouTuber, she made a video, right? And then it was someone else retweeted that video, and I liked that retweet. They didn't sue. They weren't threatening to sue the original person who made the video. It's like they were threatening to sue me because I liked the retweet of a thing. Like that's just how friggin' insane the whole thing is, right? And this is like Aaron O'Toole, I'll fight for free speech. Okay, then stop suing me over nothing, or just come on and debate this. You know what? If you come on this, Aaron, I'll pay Walid $2.5 million. I'll pay your guy $2.5 million that I don't have. I'll be indentured servitude. I'll sell my. If you come onto the show and spend an entire hour with me talking about these issues. If you just talk about these issues, I'll say, hey, screw it, Aaron O'Toole believes in free speech, whatever. Here, $2.5 million. Here's the $2.5 million, I don't have it, but you know, I'll be your slave. I'll be your slave. Or in the grand tradition of Hani Albana and Islamic Relief, sex slave, right? I'll do it. I'll do it. You can just pretend I'm a 13-year-old Yazidi girl and sex slave me up. I'll be Aaron O'Toole's sex slave if he just agrees to come on this show and talk about the issues that the people want to know about. Okay, so let's go on to fighting radical Islam. inside the Canadian party, we have a good friend of the show, Majid Jowhari. So let's bring up this tweet against Majid Jowhari put out by my friend Salman. Do we have it here? Yes, okay. So here is Majid Jowhari, who is the Liberal MP. Now remember, Majid Jowhari was the one I made a video about. Is he a Liberal MP or an Iranian asset? He was named by a British Persian language show where they basically talked about this old IRGC defector who defected out of the Iranian government and was talking about how the influence of the IRGC isn't just in the Middle East, it's in all other places across the world. He said, for example, there's this guy in Canada called Majid Jowhari, who is basically an asset of the Islamic Republic of Iran, the IRGC, which is their terrorist security arm. Okay, so here you see, in the picture you can see Majid Jowhari, Liberal MP for Richmond Hill, Mullah's friend in the Canadian Parliament, with Azriela Angali, who is convicted of bypassing sanctions by bringing millions of dollars to Canada through his currency exchange business. This MP and his financial ties with Iran's regime need to be investigated. I agree. Retweeted. Now, Majid Jowhari claims that he does not know this man that he's in this picture with. By the way, there was another picture that I found with the two of them together in Parliament. I found it like right before the show started recording, so I'm not going to put it up, but believe me. And then we found this. So bring up the next thing, which is, turns out the guy, he has no idea who this is. Oh, is that him donating to Majid Jowhari's campaign? Because it sure looks like it to me. So here we have a guy who's convicted by CSIS and admitted to lobbying and laundering money for the Islamic Republic of Iran, bypassing sanctions. Here he is, friends with Majid Jowhari, Liberal MP for Canada, working together, being BFFs. It's ridiculous. How did Majid Jowhari become an MP? Like, he was a nobody. Then Majid Jowhari was a nobody in Canada, went back to Iran, got a job at the Iranian bank, which you don't just get, then comes back to Canada with enough money to run for office. Do you see where we're going here? Do you see the problem? Clearly, this guy is an Iranian. Like, this guy needs to get out of... Someone needs to kick this guy out of Parliament. And this is why I hate the Conservative Party, is because they don't have the balls to go after him. And this is why I was the only one going after him. And then they think, like, pick a battle here. Pick a battle. Get this guy out. Just get one radical Islamist out of government for being a radical Islamist, and we can do so much good together, guys. But they're so afraid of, being called Islamophobic by the NCCM or whatever, that they'll completely throw away all their values, and then they pick stupid fights that no one really cares about, and then it's like, well, if you fight on something, well, can't you fight on something real? Can't you? Stupid. So yes, here's Majid Jowhari being in the presence of another person convicted of laundering money for Iran. Majid Jowhari also, when invited Iranian parliamentarians, or part of the regime, the evil part, if they were under sanctions in Canada, invited them to his house, right? They gave him gifts, apparently, and this is all was undeclared. So this is who Jowhari is. Good friend of the mullahs, good friend of the people who murder gays, good friend of the people who murder Baha'is, and good friend of the people who oppress Jews, Sunnis, and everyone else under the sun. Good friend of the people who believe that women are literally half, enforce hijabs, arbitrarily detain and murder Canadians. Majid Jowhari, great friend to people who murder Canadians. No other way to put it. Conservatives, grow a pair, go after him. Get him out of government. You cowards, sniveling cowards. This show is brought to you by the sniveling cowardice of the Conservative government. All right. Next story. So here's a radical Islamist. His name is Yusuf Kathara. Let's just show this story. Yunus Kathara shares prayer, "O Allah, tear them, Jews, to pieces." Oh, and it is much, much more than that. Now, Sheikh Yunus Kathara, so I'm going to read from this, is a South African-born Canadian, South Africa, Islamic studies teacher, community and youth activist, counselor, chaplain, and public speaker. He graduated with a BA from the College of Dawah and Usul ad-Din at the Islamic University of Medina in 1994 in Saudi Arabia. He's been involved in grassroots dawah propagation for Islam with the Muslim community of Canada and the BC in particular. For the last 20 years, he has presented many topics on Islam at universities in BC and Alberta for Islam Awareness Week, and also presents Introduction to Islam courses for high school and middle school students. He was previously Imam of the Islamic Center in Vancouver. He was also the founder and teacher of Al Medina Academy in Victoria, BC, as well as acting Imam of the Masjid there. He moved from Malaysia, where he was a teacher and principal of Timeni in International Islamic Studies for 7 years, while Malaysia continued to give talks at various universities and masjid. The reason I read his bio, and maybe we'll get into some of the things he's saying in these prayers, is a few things. To say this guy is just a fringe person is a lie. Look at how much influence he has. Now, this was the same guy, if you remember, when Samuel Paty got beheaded, right? He was the one who called, Samuel Paty sick. He took the side of the beheaders. He was condemning the beheaders. And this is the stuff that I tried to bring up to the people protesting against France, which, by the way, good on them. I will be meeting this weekend with one of the nicer people there who's agreed to sort of talk these issues out with me. So good on them there. And I'll let you guys know how that goes, and I hope something good comes out of it. But the point I'm making is, if you read the article and the type of prayers he's sending, one, this is not fringe stuff like, oh, Allah, count them and kill them selectively, do not leave a single one of them, make them all an example for their likes among the Yehudi, Jews, Nasara, Christians, and the Mushriks, polytheists, humiliate and abase, okay? So I have, let's just read. Oh Allah, return al-Masjid al-Aqsa, the Al-Aqsa Mosque, to the Muslims. Oh Allah, return al-Masjid al-Aqsa to the Muslims. Oh Allah, return it to the Muslims. Oh Allah, purify the Al-Aqsa Mosque from the brothers of monkeys and Khazars, the Jews. Tear them Jews to pieces and sow dissension between them and their followers. So what I do not like here, other than everything this guy says in this article, which is ridiculous, is why is it only the Jews complaining? Come on, guys. This guy's crazy, but if you're going to rely on the Zionist lobby, B'nai B'rith, Sija, Simon Wiesenthal to save us, if you're relying on those idiots to fight against radical Islam, you might as well just convert now. You might as well just convert. You might as well, just join ISIS before they win. Because if you're relying on the Jewish lobbyist community to fight this battle, you're not going to have a good time. Why can't this be a story? This should be a story of the fact that he hates Jews, Christians, polytheists, and atheists. This is an Islamist. This guy is an Islamist. He is sowing dissension, and he hates everyone who isn't Muslim. He preaches to children, to mosque members, high school, middle school, university, adult level. He preaches to everyone in between. Hatred of Christians, Jews, Hindus, atheists, you name it. But for some reason, we play this silly game where we can only use the identity politics thing where it's like, okay, we'll use the Jewish thing because no one really cares about Christians. Come on, Christians, grow a pair. Join the fight here. I want to see Christian organizations going after this guy because he said things about Christians, Jews, and unbelievers. Everyone should be going after this guy. But this guy's going to still be there. This is his second anti-Semitism thing. This is his, it's not even his, I think this is his second major controversy within a month. And this guy's still teaching children. This guy's still preaching, right? So when you want to say to me, the people at the France's bad protest, right? The Islamic protest against France there. If you want to say, oh, no, these views are not the views of all Muslims, right? ISIS doesn't represent Islam. The Muslim Brotherhood doesn't represent Islam. Only the people I wholeheartedly agree with represent Islam. One, this is really bad logic. It's the core logic of the Wahhabis, right? By this logic of, if you're saying, oh, ISIS isn't really Muslim because they don't follow it, well, okay, then if you're a Sunni, well, then Shiites aren't really Muslims because they completely discount caliph like Abu Bakr and Omar, right? But if you're Shiite, then Sunni isn't really Islam because they talk about Caliph Omar and Abu Bakr, right? So if you just have minor religious disagreements with people, and then if you minorly disagree with them, they're not real Muslims. That's that's the pathway to hell, right? So that's the point I'm going to make there. All right. So we need to go after radical Islam and sort of tear down radicals and deal with radicals. Now, I'm not going to hit on this because I'll come back to you next week, and I've done enough on what should we do with radical Islam and all that. I'm going to go with a different radical I fought today. So I had a run-in with an actual white nationalist, Paul Frum. And I'll just show you some parts of it. This was the first part of the exchange. So I tweeted out this. Could you imagine if we had a media that put 5% of the effort they currently are using to scaremonger over Adamson BBQ into covering the massive rise in gang violence in Toronto, right? If the media was as upset, and one of the people who responded to me was Canada's most famous white nationalist, Paul Frum. And you see the beginning of this exchange. And I want to sort of go through this exchange because it kind of shows, like, okay, how do you sort of defeat these people and undermine the ideology? Right, so he comes onto my thing, never interacted with him before, he doesn't follow me. It got retweeted at like over 100 or whatever, retweets, so he found it. Follow me on Twitter. Period, because he doesn't know how to spell. They'd have to explain that the gangs are N-word gangs, and that they're so politically, and that's so politically incorrect. Also, what's the most dangerous line of work in Toronto? Rap artists. 9 gunned down this year by other N-word gangsters. In the white guilt propaganda world, these facts just don't fit. Now, is there a kernel of truth to what Paul Frum is saying here? That, the rap artist thing, it's like, okay, one, no, not all the gangs are black, right? We have, like, the problem with gangs is social breakdown, okay? And this is sort of the culture versus race argument that conservatives try and make. And this is why this guy's not a conservative, right? This is why he's basically alt-right and alt-left are great terms, because the way Paul Frum argues as an alt-righter is the exact same way a radical leftist, and why I call them alt-left, right? So the thing about rappers, like I get it, like what he's saying is, and this is true, that we do have a big problem in sort of rap crime in Toronto, and what is happening here is essentially rappers are sort of making these videos where they go into like your hood or your territory, they like rap or whatever and diss you on Instagram, then they put that up online. So you have this new thing where, like, whereas these sort of territorial violations would happen in the 1990s, but just no one would know about it, now they're happening in the modern age, and it's being posted up on social media. So you have this sort of shame game that the gangs play, like, oh, we need to keep up our ego, and this guy came and disrespected us, so now we got to gun him down. And like, this is the big cause of gang violence, and a lot of murders are happening in the Toronto rap community because of this. Now, this isn't because black people, this is because of cultural breakdown and all the other things I talk about. But again, Paul Frum's just going to focus on, white guilt propaganda and like, this is where he's going. So clearly the way he's phrased it, I went after him, well, I've got to hand it to you. If we didn't have Google to know you are a neo-Nazi, just reading one tweet from you would do the trick. It's true. Like, the good thing about the white nationalists, opposed to the other type of crazies, is we're like, we are white nationalists. And you'd be like, all right, at least they're not denying it. At least we can go through it. So Paul Frum tries to do this thing with me, and then he goes, why don't you ask me? I've never identified as neo-Nazis. I'm a populist, a libertarian, and a Canada First immigration reformer. Right? A lot of words there, right? Now, I go with this. Okay. So instead of just saying what a blue checkmark media person do, you're disgusting, you're a Nazi, you're this, you're this, you're this, you're this, you're this. I said, because I'm pretty confident in my ability to defeat a white nationalist in a battle of wits. I say, okay, I'll ask. Would you be opposed, in favor of, or indifferent to the creation of a white ethno-state? Also, would you agree with this statement? The Nazis were evil and the Holocaust did happen. Pretty simple things, all right? I can answer for myself. I am opposed to any type of ethno-state. The Holocaust did happen and the Nazis are evil. Very simple. Paul Frum, I think, ideally, a European ethno-state would be good. Okay, he's a white nationalist. He is a white nationalist. It's out there. So now there's no controversy. Paul Frum told me he believes in a European ethno-state, white nationalist. Would you agree with this statement? The communists were/are evil, and there was a genocide killing 8 to 10 million Ukrainians by starvation in 1932 to 1933. So I'm just going to go back, okay? Remember, he calls himself a populist, a libertarian, and a Canada First immigration reformer. You cannot be a libertarian and believe in an ethno-state. Those two things are mutually exclusive. One of like the foundational principles of libertarianism is basically anti-racism. There's no distinctions. It's pure individualism. No one can tell you what to do. It's like black people have property rights, white people have property rights. Everyone can be their own individual. So creating a white or European ethno-state and only allowing Europeans is anti-libertarian. It's the most antithetical thing to libertarians. So he's already lied, right? So that's important to know. And it's also important to note here, he's not able to condemn the Nazis and the Holocaust. And he is an alt-leftist, or an alt-righter. And this is how the left thinks, right? Because if I go after his pet little, his ideology, which is Nazism, right? White nationalism, where I say, hey, are you white? Because I'm not a Nazi, he immediately goes, well, you think communism is good? All right, and here's my answer, okay? So he asks, the communists are evil, was there a genocide? And I say, first, to your statement, semicolon, yes, I agree, communism evil, the Holodomor did happen, and a genocide. I agree. Then I say, okay, so we have established you're a white nationalist, or at least sympathetic to idea. Now you answer my question/statement about the Nazis. And then Paul Fromm, because he can't do it, says, I have told you what I am. There are virtually no Nazis around today. It is not an issue. We are living in a descent into radical totalitarian rule. In a word, communism. Anti-small business, close down the churches, compel a uniform, masks instead of Mao jackets. The Nazis were also totalitarian. They were also fascists. Like, okay, then I think my logic the next thing is pretty good. Like, okay, pretty telling that you can't condemn Nazi Germany. Racism, anti-Semitism, and the like still exist, granted in much smaller numbers than the mainstream media claims, and even if they didn't, it's not a valid excuse for Holocaust denial, okay? Like, you can't say racism doesn't exist, okay? You can't just say, these are not issues. Racism, there's virtually no Nazis. There still are some neo-Nazis today. Now, they're not under every corner. They're a fraction of a fraction. You know, there's no need to panic about them, but they do exist. And also, even if we didn't have Nazis anymore, it doesn't mean the question philosophically of, was the Holocaust a good or bad thing, or did it happen, doesn't matter, right? It's pretty telling that he can't just say this, right? And then he goes on to some dribble. I don't comment on a group's tribal history any more than the beliefs of certain Indian tribes that descended from this or that god. Just don't force it down my throat. I note you ignored my question about communism and the Holodomor. And then I finished him off with a sort of, no, I quite clearly agreed with you that communism is evil and the Holodomor is clearly a genocide. So here he is, debunked by his own statements by some calm and rational thought, right? And this is how you have to deal with the people. Now, good thing about the white nationalists is they were nowhere near as smart, clever, and trained as the Islamists, right? When I got into a fight with Khalid al-Qazaz is a much more skillful liar than Paul Fromm ever will be, right? And a much more worthy adversary. But here's how you deal with these people, right? You don't scream and go incoherent and start lobbying all this different type of stuff and you're evil. You just say, okay, where do you stand on this issue? Can you say X, Y, or Z? And what these people need, what Paul Fromm needs to keep growing, and what other people need, is they need the moral panic and the outrage and people saying, well, you're a Nazi and you're this and you're in this and you're this and this and this. And they can say, well, I'm not, technically this. They do what the leftists do. They find one little, grammatical error in what you say, and they go on to that, and they use that to delegitimize you. But I think I've done a pretty good job of anyone who reads through this thread of thoroughly debunking Paul Fromm and showing that he's not a libertarian, he's clearly lying about that, and he is a white nationalist, right? This is how you fight these people. I got some time to argue with Canada's worst or best or most virulent white nationalist, and I think I made him look like a fool. This is how we fight extremism. We have to fight extremism. You cannot make alliances with extremists for your cause. Your cause does not become stronger by bringing Paul Fromm into it. It becomes weaker. The same thing for governments. If you want to partner to bring trees to the world, you don't partner with the Muslim Brotherhood. You don't partner with the Palestinians. You don't partner with the white nationalists, right? Even if you might agree with the Muslim Brotherhood on certain issues, right? Me and the Muslim Brotherhood probably both believe that rape is bad, unless it's done to Yazidi slaves. But we probably both believe, murdering random people is bad. Okay, unless it's Jews. We probably both believe murdering random Muslim people is bad. Okay. But I would not ally myself with the Muslim Brotherhood in order to present this case. I would present this case with non-radical people and then make it that way. Your movement doesn't get stronger, because when you bring these people into the movement, they're just going to hijack it for their own insane purposes and destroy it from within. So this is how you fight crazy people. You fight them with a calm, rational approach, and you just don't let them, get away with saying nonsense. So here I think I've pretty clearly debunked everything Paul Fromm has tried to say, and checking now, no, he has not come back at me, because quite clearly I think he looked like an idiot, and there you have it. All right, so thank you so much for watching this week's episode. Sorry it came up much later, but scheduling issues. So please, again, if you're on Facebook, please like, share first before this page gets deleted. And go to the other platforms, go to YouTube or Twitter, whatever, like, follow, share, subscribe. It really helps me out. And Mark Zuckerberg, I'd just like to say, you're right, Russia is, Donald Trump is not even president, something, something, something. Russia, Russia, Russia. Russia, Russia, Russia. Russia, Russia. See you next week.